Good afternoon. I'm George Latimer, Westchester County Executive, and welcome to our Westchester Weekly Update. Today is Monday, May 8th, and we have a long program for you with lots of different information. We're going to be joined in a couple of seconds by the mayor of the village of Sleepy Hollow, newly elected mayor, and we greet him to the podium and give him a chance to talk a little bit about his community as part of our Municipal Partners program, where we try to spotlight different villages, towns, and cities at each one of these updates. Deputy County Executive Ken Jenkins will be joining me, and we've got a lot to cover today. We're going to talk a little bit about the state budget that was recently adopted. We hope in the next week or two we'll have members of the state Senate and the state Assembly join us to give a little bit in greater depth and some of their point of view on it. We'll give you the parks update that we try to give you every week now that we're in the springtime. It's a very active time. We'll touch on a couple of special events, and we'll address, at least at the very introductory level, this issue of migrants, those asylum seekers that came up over the weekend, where Mayor Adams of New York City is trying to place some of them outside of the city to take some of the burden off the city. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. First, however, we're very happy to have with us here the new mayor of the village of Sleepy Hollow. Martin Ruta is a volunteer firefighter active in his community, and it's a large and very prominent community of 11,000 people. It's located on the Hudson River, and of course the name Sleepy Hollow is an historic name that goes back to the Washington Irving story, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. It was originally North Tarrytown, and for many years, and even to this day, the villages of Tarrytown and Sleepy Hollow have a close working relationship, probably the best working relationship of any two communities side by side that are divided by a town border, since Sleepy Hollow is in the town of Mount Pleasant and Tarrytown is in the town of Greenburgh. But with so much in common, they have common parades and common Rotary clubs and a host of different things. They still have an individual identity, and Sleepy Hollow's identity is very much defined not just by the historical reality of it, but also some of the unique features they have. The county is very happy to own Kingsland Park, which we operate cooperatively with the village, a great lighthouse that's there, which we're in the process of renovating. We've got more work to do in that location, and of course there's a big complex going up in the old GM plant that's going to really change the face of that area of the county. So without any other further ado, let me introduce Martin Ruta, who is the mayor of the village of Sleepy Hollow. We're very happy to have him here, and we look forward to a good working relationship with the village in the days to come. Martin, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you, County Executive Latimer, for inviting me to speak at this weekly briefing. You should really be commended for taking the leadership to transform your daily COVID briefings into a real communication platform that really focuses on transparency and communication to the public. I would also like to take a moment to thank Margaret Fox for all the beautiful photos you'll see in our B-roll, all the village staff who work cooperatively and tirelessly every day to make Sleepy Hollow a better place every single day. And one special moment to say happy birthday to my brother. You've earned it. I appear today as one of the newest mayors in Westchester. I was sworn into office on April 3rd and serve as a diverse Rivertown community of about 11,000 people. And I have the honor of being the caretaker and namesake of the custodian of one of the greatest literary treasures, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. Our population swells during the fall as people come to visit from around the world to visit Washington Irving's final resting place, to participate in our events, and to have fun as we hold witches' paddles on the Hudson, haunted hayrides, and many other events that are designed to give people who come all the enjoyment they want to see from a historic community like ours. We also have exercise-based events with a Halloween-themed 10K, Kids Fun Run, all hosted by the Rivertown Runners. And thank you for all those who take their time to dedicate to those events. Many of the majestic features that are inspired by Washington Irving's epic prose, those lakes, rivers, forests, and streams, are what continue to make Sleepy Hollow an idyllic place to live, work, and visit. On behalf of the Board of Trustees and my Deputy Mayor, Denise Gaglione, I thank Westchester County Executive Latimer for undertaking two enormous restoration projects that continue to make our village and our waterfront so iconic. The Hudson River Seawall in Kingsland Point Park, and the renovation of our historic lighthouse on our riverfront. With the continued support of the county, the Village of Sleepy Hollow is managing a reemergence of the waterfront that was once dominated by a GM plant. The ongoing redevelopment of the Edge on Hudson, a mixed-use residential and commercial development that will host events, that will host many different commercial properties like the Checo & Sons, shopping, dining, and lofts, is an important part of our economic growth and diversification for our community. Last Halloween, the county executive and Senator Stuart Cousins came to Sleepy Hollow to dedicate the Sleepy Hollow Riverwalk, deeded to the village of Edge on Hudson. It is a new riverside park in an area that was inaccessible to the public for almost a century. It has also been once Kingsland Point Park has been fully restored, the full Riverwalk completed, we'll have almost an entire riverfront park from the north to the south side of Sleepy Hollow, and be accessible for recreation and enjoyment of the residents and visitors, and will provide a seamless connection to our inner village as one of the best riverfront parks in all of Westchester. The village and the county entered into an IMA, an intermunicipal agreement, to maintain and operate Kingsland Point Park and the White House over 20 years ago. And you can see the benefits of that collaboration every single day, especially on any warm weather weekend like we recently had. You'll see our residents and visitors exercising their furry family members at the dog park. You'll cook out with their friends and family and enjoy the panoramic views of the Hudson River and Manhattan. As we approach the fall, we host multiple large-scale community events like Oktoberfest and our cultural festival inside of Kingsland Point, so that it really has become the heart of our outdoor community residents, recreation, and community in our small village. We look forward to building on the success of that partnership as Sleepy Hollow continues to invest in a fully connected riverfront park system. But ultimately, the most important thing I see as mayor is the partnership with the community. We are lucky to have an active community that is volunteer-driven for our boards and committees, and I cannot thank everyone enough for what they do for Sleepy Hollow every single day. Recently, our volunteer-driven Environmental Advisory Committee organized a repair cafe with their counterparts in Tarrytown. That partnership with Tarrytown is real and lives every day, and was featured on the Today Show. And for 2 weekends, the community also did cleanups. We had dozens of engaged residents working for the beautification of our parks and our inner village. Through that work of these volunteers, we are proud to have achieved the Brown rating as a climate smart community and are well on our way towards silver status. I welcome everyone to come to Sleepy Hollow, enjoy our parks, eat at our restaurants, and experience our community, and enjoy the place where the legend began and the story continues. Thank you again, County Legislator Latimer, for today's invitation. I hope you come to Sleepy Hollow soon.
Thanks very much, Mark.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much. That is the mayor of the village of Sleepy Hollow, Martin Rutna, and I have the pleasure of being in Sleepy Hollow quite a bit, and I encourage you to do exactly what he said. They have a couple of restaurant bars right in the western end of Beekman Avenue. Get a beautiful view of the river. At sunset, it's gorgeous. I live on the other side of the county where I see the sun rise over Long Island Sound, see it set in Sleepy Hollow. Very happy to have you with us today, Mr. Mayor. And also to the village administrator who's with us today, and to all the members of the board, please extend the county's best wishes, and we look forward to working with you in the future. Thanks very much. So as we'll move into some of the other areas that we want to cover on, we'll touch on a number of different points, and I'll be joined by Ken Jenkins, our Deputy County Executive. First, I want to mention that we're undertaking, with members of the Board of Legislators, an extensive effort to try to help Westchester residents reclaim money that they are owed through the Unclaimed Funds program. State Controller Tom DiNapoli maintains responsibility for a fund where various types of reimbursements that should reach an individual and does not reach that individual for one reason or another is now stored, and the opportunity exists for you, the individual, to go into that registry to find out if money is owed you and then to claim it. And in many cases, for folks who are not comfortable with dealing with the electronic world, maybe find some of these types of steps that you have to go through to reclaim reclaim the money a little burdensome. We've undertaken an effort, and it is a tremendous effort through the State Controller's Office, State Controller DiNapoli, and members of the Westchester County Board of Legislators to hold these different unclaimed fund sessions in as many communities as we can over the course of the next few months, inviting individuals, seniors, young people, people of any age to come, and we will have staff screen for you in the inventory to see if there is money that's owed you and then help you file for that so that you can have reimbursements. There's a host of different types of unclaimed funds accounts that may occur. It may be a bank account that was closed and some money resided in the account, savings, checking, CDs. It could be court funds. It might be dividends. It could be estate proceeds, insurance benefits or policies, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, deposits that you left for a telephone or a security, whatever those items are. It had not been returned to you and you didn't receive it. Maybe there was a mistake in your new address. Perhaps the name changed and it never got to you. But this registry has that money in it. And when you survey by your name or any other names that you were known under, any other addresses that you lived in, you are entitled to get that money back. You're also entitled to that money if you are the proper heir of an individual who has passed away. And you have the right to then claim whatever was due that person. So far, we have joined legislators Nancy Barr, Erica Pierce, and Catherine Parker in holding different sessions already in Mount Kisco, Lewisboro, and Bedford Hills in the northern part of the county, Portchester, Rye Brook, Rye City, and Mamaroneck on the Sound Shore area. And we have upcoming ones with County Legislator Drew Williams-Johnson at the Theodore Young Center in Greenburgh and other ones around the county. And we hope to do this in every nook and cranny of the county. Now, you don't need to come to the session in order to claim the money. You can, right now, go on to the website osc.state.ny.us. That will get you to the Office of the State Controller /OUF, Office of Unclaimed Funds. If you put that into your computer now, you will see the registry come up. You can place your name in there. They ask for a little bit of information. You can see if there's any claim that is attached to you. It will not tell you the amount of money. It will tell you the source of the claim, and it will also identify the address that you are or were living at the time that claim occurred. So if you look at it and it says George Latimer and it has a Mount Vernon address on it, well, I once lived in Mount Vernon, and so that would be money that was accrued to me. And so you're then able to punch up the form. You can file for it online. You can file for it with a hard copy paper. But our staff that will be there at the time will certainly be happy to help you and do anything along those lines. You can also dial the number that's been established by the state, 1-800-221-9311 during normal business hours, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, to get any help. And that will give you some information as well. So you can check on your own, or you can check the schedule that we have of upcoming sessions. We try to publicize them, and this is where the local county legislator reaches out, secures a time and date at one of the prominent community sites in the area. It might be a senior center, it could be a church assembly hall, it could be a town hall in one of the main building rooms, but to do this in a way that will hopefully give you access to it. But this is real. This is no joke. I checked around the Thanksgiving holiday season and I found that I had some money that was coming to me that I did not realize, and you may find that that's the case too. Usually about 1 out of every 4 people that check find something for themselves or for somebody else close to them. So you may find something for a child, you may find something for a brother, sister, whatever other relative that you might find. But we encourage you to keep an eye out for when the Unclaimed Funds session is coming in your area, or we encourage you to check on your own right now, osc.state.ny.us/OUF. And if the money is due to you, you can get that money back. It's real and it's worthwhile. Speaking of money, we have just closed our contract with the Civil Service Employee Association. Ken Jenkins is going to give you an update on that. Tomorrow we'll have a press conference to discuss in greater detail. We just want to point out that there are 9 bargaining units that Westchester County works with. And we have been trying diligently to get our contracts up to speed with every one of them. When we came in office a little over 5 years ago, some of those contracts were open. The CSEA was open for 7 years at that point. We negotiated, closed that 7-year backlog, and did it for any of the other unions that are there. And now we've gone forward with Teamsters and nurses and a few others. But Ken will give you a little bit of the outline of the CSEA contract that has been approved, that we're officially announcing to the public tomorrow. Ken.
Thanks, George. Certainly, as the county executive mentioned, when we walked into office in 2018, none of the bargaining units had an agreement at that time. There was some that were negotiated, but they had not gone all the way through. And certainly, it is the right thing to do for all of the people that work, the 4,500 plus people that work for the county of Westchester, to make sure that these items are taken care of. So more to come tomorrow on the CSEA contract, the new CSEA contract. It was approved by the Board of Legislators last week on a Monday, and it had to go through a ratification process after several months of negotiations. So we'll have a lot more details about that, and County Executive will be signing the act that puts that into law for all of the Civil Service Employees Associations, Local 1000 of AFSME, AFL-CIO, and Local 860, 9200 on a 5-year agreement that's going to be retroactive beginning January 1st, 2023, going for till December 31st, 2027. And we really rely on these services that come from the CSCA. Westchester County relies on those services for the workforce that they provide each and every day. This agreement is a manifestation of the efforts of the continuing strong relationship with the dedicated public servants who call the county an employer every day. So this agreement, again, has been approved by the Board of Legislators, and we'll have a lot more to say about this tomorrow. Thanks, George.
Thanks very much. Next, I just want to give a brief update. We are going to have a ceremony that will dedicate a facility, a garden, to honor the late Lawrence Otis Graham. And this Graham Garden and Memorial that honors him for the lifelong public service that he provided. He was an author of great note with academic credentials. He was the chair of our Police Advisory Board, which is the citizen group that we have existing to deal with issues that relate to the police department. This ceremony is coming up on Friday, May 19th at 11 a.m. Friday, May 19th at 11 a.m. That is a week from this coming Friday. It will be at a section of the Kensico Dam Plaza located in Valhalla, and we will know it as Graham Garden in perpetuity in his remembrance. The parking is available there at the Kensico Dam Plaza playground. As you enter Kensico, whether you're coming up the Bronx River or coming down from Route 22, there's a parking area to the left. As you enter in the area, that is a proper place to park if you want to be part of this recognition. I knew Lawrence very well over the years. I rang his doorbell in one of my early campaigns 30 years ago. He was an impressive man, died at a young age, and we grieve his loss, but we want to remember that service that he's given to us because it is that important, and so we're happy to do that. I want to mention in some detail the state budget. When we met here in this context last Monday, the state budget was near adoption. They did adopt it overnight on Monday night after our report, so we just want to highlight a few of the things that are there. We are inviting members of the State Senate and the State Assembly to join us here for an upcoming update where they can be able to address some of these issues in greater detail. Andrea Stewart-Cousins, State Senator from Yonkers, represents the western half of the county, is the leader of the New York State Senate, and obviously very prominent, along with Senator Shelley Mayer, Senator Pete Harcum, and Senator Natalia Fernandez, who represent parts of Westchester County. And then on the Assembly side, the delegation leader, who has 30 years of experience in the Assembly, is Assemblyman J. Gary Pretlow of Mount Vernon, and he's joined by 7 other colleagues, including Assemblywoman Amy Paulin, Assemblyman Chris Burdick, Assemblyman Steve Otis, Assemblyman Nader Sage, Assemblywoman Dana Levenberg, Assemblyman Matt Slater, and Assemblywoman Mary Jane Shimsky. 3 of them are freshmen this year, but they're not freshmen to government. They've had other experiences. So we're very fortunate to have a delegation that works very hard. Whether we won or lost a particular issue, those individuals have been strong fighters for Westchester County, and we appreciate their work. As we look at what the state government did, and I cannot give a complete analysis of it, not being in the state government at this stage of my career, but I do want to mention that there were some issues that were resolved and some issues that were not adopted and therefore might be a subject of future discussion. There was an additional $1 tax left on cigarettes. It was a $4.35 state tax. To this point, it now will be a $5.35 state tax, and it's going to impact sales tax collections from the state level. The minimum wage was increased in the state budget to $17 an hour for New York City and the downstate counties, which include Westchester County. That will be by January 1st of 2026. The remainder of the state will be at $16 an hour and then raised to $17 an hour in 2027. We have some financial issues that matter greatly to the county that impact us a lot, and they were not issues that were part of the major public discussion of the state budget, but very important to us. Enhanced federal Medicaid assistance program represented significant funding from the federal government, which would come down to the county, which pays for a portion of the Medicaid cost. And of course, we're the only state that requires that at the level that we do. So part of your county tax dollars goes to pay for the Medicaid program. That is not the case in Connecticut, New Jersey, Massachusetts, California. Name the state. That's not the way it works in those states. It does work that way in New York. So there was money that was going to be sent down from the federal government to help offset the impact of that to the county taxpayers. Now, you know how hard we've worked to try to lower taxes. 4 straight years we've reduced the county property tax levy. And at the same time, we've stabilized our financial situation, slightly grown our bond rating. All of that is part of fiscal management that we've tried very hard to do. The change in EFMAP funding means that the state will retain that money. The county will not get the money as we would otherwise be expected to do it. And it has been discussed, but it was not locked into law, as being phased in over the next few years. It is argued no impact for the 23 budget, the existing budget that we're in. We have a calendar year fiscal budget, but it would have impacts in 24, 25, and 26, and ultimately have a cost of an additional $30 million impact on Westchester County government. That is money that we either have to absorb through other revenue streams, whether we deal with the property tax levy in that fashion, whether we cut services, we cut staffing, we change the way we assist not-for-profit organizations, all unpalatable choices that we would have to make over the next 3 years when we reach the point at which that decision in this state budget impacts us negatively by $30 million. But it's phased in, so the impact in 24 is less than that. But none of this was locked into law. It's going to be handled on an administrative level, and so we have to make sure that what we're told is the intent is in fact the intent, because it could change. And the state legislature is not able to change that. There was also a decision made to increase the compensation for lawyers that represent indigent individuals in certain cases. And that increase in salary per hour rate, certainly overdue and earned, will represent a specific hit to Westchester County. In theory, a $14 million hit and a reimbursement of $7 million, so it's a $7 million impact. That's in addition to the impact of the EFMAP. These two numbers together blow a hole in our budget, and we'll have to see exactly what we'll do. We'll certainly report back to you as we think through this with our executive team. We'll consult, obviously, with the Board of Legislators, because they're a partner in these decisions, to determine how we have to handle it. But the increase in what's called 18B, assigned court attorneys, counsels, for those who are indigent, will make a very important impact. The state budget increased the eligibility for child care from the poverty line. It increases it so that more people are eligible for that. The operating capital budget at the state level provides more resources for our local boards of elections so that they will be able to do new voting equipment, software technology upgrades, and things of that nature. There's some impact on civil service exams and so forth. The funding that is provided to us through the Consolidated Highway Improvement Program, the acronym is CHIPS, that program provides additional money for various road projects that we have to have, some of which we hope will be seen here in the state road system across New York, across Westchester County. There are climate-related initiatives that have been placed in this budget. We certainly have done much as a county government to try to address issues of the environment. We've talked about that over the course of April. There's additional money that the state is providing in the State Environmental Protection Fund to support projects. And of course, the $4.2 billion Environmental Bond Act was passed last year with strong support in Westchester County. That hopefully will help us apply for certain types of situations. Hazard mitigation, that's a very important issue, particularly with the flooding that we get here, and the Storm Act. There's public safety funding. That's a very important issue. Right now, folks are concerned about what level of crime we see and what level of public safety we can guarantee. Here in Westchester County, crime is still down over a 5-year period of time when you compare 2022 to 2017, but the fear of crime is still palpable, and whenever you see an incident of crime, the statistics that say that crime is down does not offset the fact that you personally have seen or experienced an element of crime. So we have to do everything we can to push back on that, and the state is providing some additional resources in that area that will be adjusted to it. We have a host of other areas in which we're looking at state policy making. You're aware that the housing compact that was offered by the governor that included mandatory transit-oriented development, more dense population required around train stations, and then also the provision that provided for a state override of local zoning. Both of those were not included in the budget. They were negotiated out of the budget. This county has been committed to affordable housing development, but we felt the mandate was the wrong way to go, and that the right way to go is through incentives and us working on site projects that will actually deliver the housing units, and rather than the broad-based policies that can be problematic in a community depending on what particular location that we're looking at. The state debated the issue of making illegal menthol tobacco sales. We dealt with that issue at the county level. I spoke about that in some detail when I vetoed the bill, but I also added money for an education program and for an enforcement program that Ken Jenkins is coordinating. And then the same issue came up at the state level. That was pulled out of the budget, so that did not happen as part of the budget. There's much more to discuss. The bottom line is that we are, as a county government, not on an island. We are affected by what happens at the federal level and the state level. We are trying to be intelligent, rational managers. Both Ken and I have a corporate background, separate and distinct from our time in public office. Most people don't recognize that. I have to mention it or you wouldn't know it. And our experience in corporate life, working for major corporations, major firms, also influences the way we view the management in the public sector. So we are affected by decisions made in Washington and in this case in Albany, and then we have to try to respond to that. And I also recognize, we'll talk about this when we get to the last topic of today, we also recognize that we operate decision-making in a public setting. That is fundamentally different from a corporate environment. When I worked in a corporate environment, I had people I directly reported to. I had some people that directly reported to me. If I was in keeping with what my superiors expected me to do, that was all pretty much I had to worry about. There was no general population that had an opinion about what I was doing and how I was doing it. And that is different in the public domain because the public has an input. This is government of the people, by the people, for the people, and people have opinions. And sometimes their opinions don't agree with each other, much less how they interact with the decision makers. So we will see how all those things play out. And again, I'll talk about that more when I reach the last topic. The next topic is always a pleasant one, and that's the update of where we are with our various parks. We've had some big things just happen. We've got more things coming. So once again, I'll let Ken take over for this section.
Thanks, George. And certainly this is the time of year that we are all getting out more. We had such a tremendous weekend. It was just a beautiful weekend. We have that kind of weather now that we're breaking into spring, getting ready for the things that are going to happen. The Parks Department, our Parks, Recreation, and Conservation, the award-winning, nationally recognized park system, is doing a lot of work in the over 18,000 acres of parkland that we have in Westchester County in over 50 different facilities. And this week, we have coming up our Salute to Seniors. That's going to be on May 10th from 10 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. And that's going to be the first of 3 different events that are held in Westchester County Parks during this May. The first one on the 10th is going to be at Ridge Road Park in Hartsdale. The space is limited, so you need to register. In order to register, please call 914-218-3968, or you certainly can hit the website that I know is on the bottom of the screen. A reservation is required for every attendee. It's free admission and free parking. 1 box lunch is going to be provided with each reservation. The event is outdoors and it's tented as well. We're going to have social distancing as well. I believe masks are optional for those folks that would like to continue to do that. Again, it's going to be outside. We took this to this particular way of doing the Salute to Seniors because of the pandemic, and now we're continuing that on because it was such a tremendous success. We used to have just one day in the county center with the salute for seniors and bring everyone together. Now we have these multiple events throughout the county where everyone can have an opportunity to participate. This is sponsored by our outstanding Department of Westchester County's Department of Senior Programs and Services, led by the incomparable May Carpenter and her entire team, the Department of Westchester County Public Works, and Transportation is also providing free B-Line bus transportation. So again, you just need to make sure to mention this information. And our Westchester County Health Department is going to be on hand to offer free COVID-19 vaccinations and test kits at every event that we have during May. And again, May 10th from 10 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. That's the very first one at Ridge Road Park right in Hartsdale. Then on Saturday, May 13th, we're going to have at Cranberry Lake Preserve in North White Plains, Mother Nature's Crafts from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Drop in and take home a craft made of natural materials. Get to see how those are made and participate in that. Again, some of the great activities that we're having throughout our park system. On Sunday, the 14th, it'll be the second day of our Bicycle Sundays from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. That's going to be on the Bronx River. It's 6.5 miles. It starts right about in Scarsdale Road in Yonkers, right at the bridge at the break of where Reed Avenue is in Tuckahoe, going right up to the county center. It is a fantastic opportunity. It's 6.5 miles. It's get your chance to see all of the things in our wonderful county park system. It's a partnership with the Parks Foundation, and it has some great sponsors, both Con Ed, New York Presbyterian, as well as a new sponsor for the cycles themselves, Jen Cycles, who was out there out on the parkway at the rest stop to be able to help people to fix their bicycles or anything else like that. Again, it's a great opportunity, especially reminding everyone May is Mental Health Awareness Month. There's nothing better than getting out and walk around in our great park system. So whether you walk, you ride, you even skate, you certainly can take advantage of some of the folks that were taking advantage with the trikes for the people that have physical challenges. Again, make sure to get involved. And we like to say in the county park system, get out and play. Back to you, George.
Thank you again, Ken Jenkins, our Deputy County Executive. I want to close with an issue that has been very much on the minds of people over the last 24, 48 hours, with the announcement that in Rockland County and in Orange County, there have been some proposed placements of those individuals, migrants, who are assembly seekers and have been moved to New York. And now the city of New York, stressed to be able to handle them, has sought places outside of the city to house them. But I do want to highlight that we are, as an executive team, going through the issue in some detail. We're discussing with the various operating departments, our Department of Public Safety, our Department of Social Services, other relevant departments, as to what Westchester's response can and should be. We have not received yet, as Rockland and Orange has, specific example of a placement somewhere in Westchester County. That is, as we're speaking today, there is an anticipation that that dialogue is coming, but it has not happened yet as of this moment in time. And I'm mindful of what my colleagues in Rockland and Orange have said about this. And I do want to go backwards to go forward. So I think it bears a discussion of greater depth a little later in the week, perhaps at the end of the week, when we have our response planned together of what we intend to do, and share that with you and share that with the Board of Legislators. But to talk about this issue, because the issue is going to be framed in ways that are highly emotional, and for which people, their political ideologies, their philosophies are very much going to be in play. I understand certainly that we've had a border problem at our southern border, Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, California, for an extended period of time. We have countries to the south of us, from Mexico through Central America and Latin America, that are in various stages of poverty, various stages of political upheaval, and that the everyday life for the everyday person in those countries is very problematic. We have many countries in this world that suffer that, and in Europe, and in other locations, there's immigrant crisis that comes out of other continents, out of the Middle East and out of sub-Saharan Africa, out of parts of Asia, into other developed countries. So we're not alone in dealing with this. As a country that has had some economic success and certainly political freedom, we have positioned ourselves, and we are, in fact, an attractive place for people to come to try to seek to live their lives. We've had a border problem for a long time, and I remember in the mid-1980s, Ronald Reagan, President of the United States, when he issued a blanket amnesty for all those who had entered the United States without legal documentation. President Ronald Reagan did that back in the mid-1980s. But that, of course, did not address the problem for the future. It addressed the problem for the immediate period of time. And it is clear that we do not have what we need to have, which is a national policy properly debated and implemented by the federal government. And the reason why we don't have that is because we have a deep division in this country over the role that the United States should take in dealing with immigration into this country. And this is not anything new. This is nothing new. What we're facing today in terms of placement of immigrants is not the first time our administration and the county has dealt with it. Back in 2018, then the President Donald Trump administration placed 1,000 immigrant children in 4 different locations across Westchester County. And in that placement, we inquired, because we have legally the requirement to ensure public safety, public health safety. The local governments have responsibility for fire safety. And we were told at that time by the Federal Department of HHS that we, as local officials, would have butt out. We had no role to play. We had no supervisory role, that the federal government was in charge. Now, many people forget, either circumstantially or conveniently, that that happened 5 years ago under the Trump administration, and that was a permanent placement in this county that lasted for some indefinite period of time before they were removed. We also had quite the debate in this county in 2021 and 2022 when the current Biden administration was sponsoring relocation flights, resettlement flights from the border and stopping off in various locations. They used Westchester County Airport as a portal to deliver some of these asylum seekers and some of these immigrants that were here, and they were ferried out to different locations. And we had quite a public argument, saw all the comments on Facebook about how they were staying here in Westchester County. They were staying at the Rye-Town Hilton. They weren't. They were staying at Arrowwood. They weren't. They were staying and winding up at Costco in downtown Port. They weren't. But in each of those different cases, the anger that some people in the society have over the immigrant population coming into the United States is clear, and it's palpable. Certainly President Donald Trump was very clear. His response to the immigrant crisis at our southern border would be to build a wall and to keep those immigrants out, to not let them in under any circumstances. As we've gone through the current problems and policies, or lack of a coherent policy at the federal level, those who've come seeking asylum at the border have been placed at the border while their cases are being reviewed. And these are thousands of people, 7,000 a day, seeking asylum in the United States. And Governor Abbott of Texas, at some level Governor DeSantis of Florida, made the decision to send some of those people on buses to the city of New York, also to Washington, D.C. I think he sent a bus to Martha's Vineyard, those areas that they determined were sufficiently liberal and then could therefore handle the immigrants that they were under stress to handle. And there's no question that in Texas they have a crisis. It's a serious crisis. They are the largest portion of the border between Mexico and the United States, and that is the portal by which people from all South American, Latin American countries that are stressed and are leaving Venezuela, are leaving potentially Colombia, Nicaragua, Honduras, wherever there's economic poverty and wherever there's political upheaval, they move out of those areas and they move toward the United States. It's my understanding that New York City has received 50,000 of these individuals over the course of the last few months. 50,000 additional people coming to the front door seeking entry in New York City because they've been shipped up here from the Texas and the Florida area and some of the other ones. So without that national policy, we have a gridlock. We have a portion, and it does define itself by political party and political ideology. I try to be as apolitical as I can be in a setting like this, that there are people who believe that there should be some path to deal with these immigrants and change that, a path to citizenship, a path to workership here. And there's some that believes we should not let immigrants into this nation, period, walls up, and that should be the response. That debate in Washington has frozen us from having any kind of a rational policy. And so it falls to state governments and now local governments to deal with the aftermath of that. Let me remind you, as I said earlier, this is not new. In the 1840s, there was a great emigration from Ireland to the United States. The Irish immigrants who came here were not welcomed. They were not treated as equal residents coming to this country. They spoke English, but they were viewed to be an underclass of people coming into this country. There were signs in store windows that would say Nina, no Irish need apply. It was prejudice against people coming from Ireland, and it was felt that because they came here with a different religion. This country was primarily Protestant. The Irish that were coming were Catholic, that they were coming with an alien faith, and that they would not fit into the America that had been created by our founding fathers in 1776. Even though it said we professed that all men are created equal, in the 1840s the Irish were not seen as equal. In the 1880s, when there was a great Italian immigration from southern Italy coming to the United States, they too were not treated with open arms. They were accepted here in the country, and in the 1840s and the 1880s, there was a need for raw labor to open up the West, to open up parts of this country. The industrialization phase of the American experience was underway. But the Italians who came here were not welcomed. They were seen as an alien people. They were treated because they had swarthier Mediterranean skin as unlike those who were here already, who were Northern Europeans. And I might add that some of the Irish that assimilated from the 1840s were prejudiced against the Italians who followed them in. The phrase WAP was attached as a derogatory word to Italian immigrants, WAP standing for without papers, because some of those who came without papers. In that era of emigration came my great-grandfather, Donato Mainero, from the town of Benevento in Italy. He came here, worked here for a while, went back to Italy, married his betrothed, and they came to the United States and had 13 children here. One of those children was my grandfather, Giuseppe, and of course, in due time, their daughter met up with the grandson of William Fleming Latimer, Stan Latimer, and of course, those are my parents, and that is how I came to Westchester County. In the 1900s, we had an emigration from Eastern Europe, primarily Jewish, from the persecution and the pogroms of Eastern Europe and Russia, and in some of the countries that we read about now, Ukraine and Belarus, Romania and Hungary and Czechoslovakia. This is before the Holocaust of the 1940s under the Nazis. There was persecution, and the Jewish population came. And when they came, they were prejudiced against. They were viewed as the other. They came with a religion that wasn't a Christian faith. And how could these people come to this country and be part of the American experience? This has been a part of the American experience, even with the Statue of Liberty standing in the harbor, and the poem by Emma Lazarus that lifts the lamp beside the golden door. And those immigrants came, but when they arrived here, they were treated not as equal neighbors and friends. Oftentimes, we have to deal with issues on a practical governmental standpoint. There's a dynamic of this issue which is moral. There's a dynamic of it which is practical implementation. And we need to know as a county government, Ken, myself, and the executive team, we have to know if immigrants come here, what's the legal basis for them being here, and if they are here, what is the cost for their time here? Who's going to pay for that cost? Because the county government does not have the resources to be able to handle this on an infinite level, nor does the city of New York. We need to know the timeline, how long, and over what circumstances of services are intended to be provided. Because under current requirements and laws, we cannot provide federally sponsored programs to people who are here who are not treated as American citizens. That's not a possibility. If they're undocumented, whether they're here legally or they're awaiting the adjudication of their case for asylum, we don't know that. And I have a responsibility as county executive for my time in this job. I have a fiduciary responsibility to the people of this county and the budget of this county and the taxation level of this county, and I have a responsibility to make sure that people are protected in this county. So security is an issue, and safety, public safety is an issue. These are all important issues. These are the secular elements of this decision. As our executive team meets to discuss what this means, we'll have dialogue with whomever we have to have dialogue with. We'll talk to our fellow counties. We'll talk to the city of New York. We'll talk to the federal government to try to get a handle on this. But let me add one other point in terms of the secular situation. I asked our county attorney, John Noda, to opine on this decision of whether or not I had the authority, or any Westchester County executive has the authority under executive order to create emergency declaration that relates to this. And I have a memo from him. I won't read it to you, but they identify under the law state executive law, that those items that represent a disaster, rioting, catastrophe, or similar public emergency are the basis for which an emergency order can be created. So I am advised that I do not have the power to deal with this issue using executive authority and executive emergency authority, and that is the interpretation of the law as I have received it from our county attorney, who has given us sound advice and so many other things. These are the secular sides of this. But before I close, I want to touch on an element that goes beyond the secular into the spiritual. I recognize that we all have our own faith beliefs. We are attached to the faiths that we are attached to, if we have a faith. We may not have one. And in the American experience, if you read the Founding Fathers, they indicated that there would be a separation between church and state because what they did not want was the state, the government, to impose a specific religion upon all those people in the country. They wanted individuals to have the freedom to worship as they saw fit. That is the basic purpose for the separation of church and state. It does not mean that we do not take religious philosophy into our everyday lives or into the actions that we take, but that we do not mandate that set of religious beliefs, because we have here Christians and Jews and those who adhere to Islam and those who believe in the Hindu faith and the Buddhist faith and many other faiths, traditions, and some who have no faith tradition at all, and whatever their sense of belief system is what you practice in a free country where you have free speech and you have free practice of religion. But I'm influenced by my religion, and I will tell you, as a Christian, as a Roman Catholic Christian, I am often lectured to by fellow members of my faith. They're unhappy with certain positions that I hold on certain key issues, which they feel the church's positions are very clear on. And the church has taken a position on some of these issues, and they believe that the government of our country should follow those positions. We should make things illegal and not accept them and not tolerate them. We should set up barriers to not accept certain behavior which we are taught is inappropriate behavior. Well, we're taught a lot of things in the context of church. We're taught a lot of things in the context of our sacred scriptures, the Quran, and certainly the Bible. And the Bible, in parts, are equally sacred to both the Jewish and Christian communities, and in some part, just to those of us in the Christian community. But we have each week in our various faith traditions, and on those occasions when I go to Mass on a daily basis, which I do on occasion, we hear readings, sacred readings, that teach us directly as to what our attitude should be over things. They very rarely talk about those two major issues that I talk about, if ever. Those are modern-day interpretations of holy faith, which are established by established churches. But let me read to you what is from the Bible in the New Testament, from Matthew, the book of Matthew, one of the Gospels of the New Testament, and this verse, which I think is very instructive in terms of what we have to add to the discussion when we talk about economics, when we talk about logistics, when we talk about where the money is coming from and how we're going to handle security. I read, "When the Son of Man shall come in his glory, and all the holy angels with him, then he shall sit upon the throne of glory. And before him shall be gathered all nations, and he shall separate them one from another, as a shepherd divides his sheep from the goats. And he shall set the sheep on his right hand, but the goats on his left. Then shall the king say unto them on his right hand, Come, you blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you took me in. I was naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you came unto me. Then shall the righteous answer him, saying, Lord, when did we see you hungry, or needing of food, or thirsty, or gave thee drink? When we saw you a stranger, when did we take you in? When were you naked? When did you require shelter? When were you sick or in prison? When we came unto you. And then the king shall answer and say to them, Truthfully I say unto you, inasmuch as you have done it unto the least of these my brothers, you've done it unto me. And then he shall say to those on the left hand, Depart from me, ye cursed, into everlasting fire, prepared for the devil and his angels. For I was hungry, and you gave me no food. I was thirsty, and you gave me no drink. I was a stranger, and yet you did not take me in. I was naked, and you didn't clothe me. I was sick. I was in prison, and you visited me not. Then shall they answer him also, Lord, when did I see you hungry or thirsty or a stranger or naked or sick in prison and did not minister unto you? And he shall say to them, truthfully I say to you, inasmuch as ye did it not to one of the least of these, you did it not to me. And then these shall go away into everlasting punishment, and the righteous into life eternal. This is what I'm taught as part of my faith. And when my friends care about my spiritual future long after my political future is over, they will minister to me about positions that I take that they feel have put me in the wrong side of eternity. And I say unto them the same things that I've just read. There's a story of the Good Samaritan who stops along the side of the road to help a person who had fell into robbers. And the Samaritan, who is a stranger, when the parable is told, he's a stranger, he's not from that home country. The Samaritan stops and handles the compassion needed for that individual. And Jesus says in this particular parable, who is my neighbor? Who is your neighbor? The person who stopped and gave you help. Right now, I would not trade having been born in Mount Vernon, New York, for having been born in a rural poverty section of South America or Central America. I would not trade having the opportunity to have a public education and have the opportunity to go to college, have the opportunity to find work and have a life, a better life than my parents had. That is an opportunity granted to me by the stroke of luck by which I was born in the United States of America to the grandson and the great-grandson of people who were born in Europe, by the stroke of luck. That good fortune is not given to many other people. They live in countries where there's political turmoil, where there are drug cartels, where they will take your children from you and turn them into drug runners and turn them into human shields for their illegal activities. You have governments that, whatever our governmental problems are, do nothing to help you and press you into service, and worse. And worse. I can understand why a person might walk 1,000 miles with children, to come to the border, to have an opportunity for a better life. That is what Donato Manero, with his wife Josefina, came from Italy to come to this country in the 1880s, 1890s. That is why my Irish antecedents came to this country. And that is why so many of us came to this country. Human compassion has to be met with pragmatism. We must understand that the United States cannot solve the problems of the world. We do not have the resources to solve the problems of the world. We cannot be there for every single person on this planet. But we cannot turn a blind eye either. We can't say, you don't look like me, and therefore I want nothing to do with you. Your problems are your problems. Go back to where you came from. Suffer the gangs, suffer the poverty, and suffer the torture. That's not an acceptable response either. So we have to try to find a way, as human beings that are fallible, to find a way through this. Ideally, we find a way through this at the national government, so that those of us in local government, the county executives and the town supervisors, can work within a system of resources and some guarantees and protections by which we can help those who need help for the time that they need it, and we can protect the residents who are here, who are our responsibility. We'll talk more about this a little later in the week. But I ask you to think about what I've said. These words aren't mine. These are eternal words. I will be long out of this position and long off this planet, and those words will still matter. We have to determine, who are we? Who are we? What do we believe in? And what are we willing to put behind that belief? And if we're not prepared to do that, if we're prepared to speak words of faith and speak words that allude to compassion but do not provide compassion, then we're being dishonest with ourselves. I'm George Latimer, Westchester County Executive. Thank you for watching.